If you've ever wanted to learn how to film yourself but wanted to look cinematic and not like you're taking a random selfie, then I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is that you don't need expensive equipment to film yourself. You can use something as simple as a modern-day smartphone or a small camera like the DJI Pocket 3. But the bad news is that learning to film yourself is something that takes a lot of practice, as I've learned over the years of filming these YouTube videos. I do have a partner who helps me film occasionally, but he's got a 9-to-5 job, and we have a toddler. So realistically, I have to film whenever I have any spare time in the day, and usually that means filming by myself. So maybe that's you, or maybe you have other reasons for wanting to film yourself. Whatever they are, I'm gonna help you out because I've got 7 tips to share to help you learn how to film yourself and look cinematic. Stay tuned for tip number 6 because it is my favorite. Before we get started, let me just say that you can use these tips with any camera, but I do recommend using a camera with a selfie screen if at all possible, because it will save you so much time with composing your shot. If you don't have the selfie screen, then you'll have to compose your shot, put yourself in it, go back and review the footage, and possibly tweak it and film it again. And this is a lot of back and forth that can take much longer. So try to use a selfie screen. The only trick with using a selfie screen is to not look at it as you're filming, unless that's part of your style. The first tip is to shoot in higher frame rates. So by high frame rate, I mean something like 120 frames per second, which is slow motion, or even up to 60 or 30 frames per second in a regular speed video. When you shoot in slow motion, it makes just about any shot look cinematic, just because it slows down the movement and really focuses in on what's going on in the scene. And it just adds a really dramatic feel to whatever it is that you're shooting. Check out these 2 clips. One is shot in regular speed and the other in slow motion. See how the slow motion draws you in just a little bit more than the regular speed video? Now to shoot in slow motion, you don't have to shoot in slow motion mode, because some cameras just don't have it. You can also choose a higher frame rate in camera, such as 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second. As long as your final project is edited in a lower frame rate, like 24 frames per second, you can take that higher frame rate footage and you can slow it down in post-production. One more word on video settings. You may want to shoot in log or a flat color profile if your camera allows for it. This gives you more flexibility while you're editing your video later on. But if you didn't do that, you can also use editing plugins from the sponsor of this video, Motion Array. It's a marketplace with tons of video assets like templates, stock footage, and music. I've been a longtime user of their templates to make my video editing tutorials. But what I didn't know is that they also have over 50 plugins that work with your existing video editing software. In my case, it's DaVinci Resolve. And these plugins help speed up the editing process. It's easy to add visual effects, color grade, and adjust the overall look of your footage. Take this B-roll shot as an example. Say I want to increase the sharpness. I can add a high-pass filter and adjust the radius to my liking. I can also go down to light flares and add one just to emphasize where the light is shining from. Here's the before and the after. I can even go a little crazy and add a cartoon effect, or even some vintage film grain if I want to get even more creative. If you want to try Motion Array for yourself, use my link below to get a $50 discount on Motion Array's annual plan. Thanks to Motion Array for sponsoring this video. And now let's move on to the next tip. The next tip is to capture at least 3 main shots of each scene. Be sure to capture a wide or establishing shot, a medium shot, and a close-up or detail shot. Having a variety of shots is really important for making a visually interesting story. You need more of just a single shot of you walking through the frame. That's not very interesting. When you consider other details, such as what you're wearing, how you're feeling, and what you're doing in your environment, this puts together a more visually interesting scene. Now, as you're shooting, aim to shoot short clips that are around 10 seconds long, and resist the urge to keep the camera running because it not only makes editing a nightmare, but you'll also fill up your memory card and drain your camera battery. So the final result will end up being a bunch of 10-second clips that you'll have to stitch together in post-production, rather than one long continuous clip. But again, it'll be more visually interesting this way, so I definitely recommend going the short clip route. Now, even though this video is about filming yourself, the next tip is to not just film yourself, but focus on other elements in the environment around you. When I film outside, I try to choose a location that I find interesting, and I'm considering you guys the viewers, and I want to bring you along with me to experience that environment, and I can only do so through visuals and audio. So yes, I am part of the scene, but there are also interesting details like this little waterfall and pretty flowers. So be sure to consider all of the details around you and whatever draws your attention, and try to find ways to capture it on camera. Now, while you're capturing your main 3 shots and details around you, also consider using a variety of camera mounts to get different points of view and perspectives. When I first thought about filming myself, I was picturing setting up a tripod at eye level and walking through the shot, and doing that over and over again. But honestly, if you do that and put your video together, it's pretty boring. It's not very interesting. So to spice it up, you can use different camera mounts to get different perspectives. You can wear your camera or hold it at chest height to get a first-person shot of you walking through or interacting with your environment. Or consider mounting the camera from a tree to get a top-down shot as if shooting from the tree's perspective. Or frame the shot with grass and leaves as if getting a bug-level perspective. In the end, all of these shots will work together to make your scene and your story really come to life. Now, as you're shooting, especially shots of yourself, you'll probably end up with a lot of static shots because the camera isn't moving because you have to be moving in front of it. Static shots are okay, but the only thing is to make sure that something in the frame is moving. Otherwise, it's gonna look like a static photo. Or if nothing in the frame does move, find a way to make it move. In this shot, I'm physically blowing on the flower to make it appear like a breeze is coming through. And my final tip to help you make cinematic videos of yourself is to take time to edit your video. If you know nothing about editing, then I recommend using DaVinci Resolve because it's a free editing program with lots of professional tools. And I have a video down below about how to get started editing in Resolve, so check it out if you're in need of some tips. Like I said earlier, the goal when you're filming in this style is to shoot a bunch of 10-second clips. So it does take some time to sit down and arrange those clips and put them together in a visually interesting way. You may also want to layer in some sound effects or some music to add on to the whole scene. So in conclusion, those are my 7 tips for learning how to film yourself and look cinematic. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or if you have any other tips to add, because I feel like I'm just scratching the surface with all of these ways to film yourself. There are many more tips to go through. So let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.